Okay, the book community spotlight for today is, I feel like I've probably already spoken about this person. If you know me in person, you will have heard me speak about this collective for a while. But today it is the Free Black Women's Library, which is run by a young woman called Olaronke. And I actually had the pleasure of meeting her at MoMA PS1 when they were having like a zine festival. And I was completely, do you hear me, completely bowled over by her spirit, her energy, her love for the project, and that a project like that existed. And then she did it just from her mind's eye, her mind. It was just an idea, and now it's a reality. And it has now grown to a point where she is now going to have a physical space in where my favorite place, Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. So let me just read a little bit from her website. The Free Black Women's Library is a social art project, interactive installation, and book collection that celebrates the brilliance, diversity, and imagination of Black women writers. In 2021, we aim to launch our reading room and bookmobile in Bedford, Stuyvesant, Brooklyn, and you can donate to their GoFundMe. I'll add the link in the bio. The library features a precious collection of 3,000 books written by Black women. This collection also includes some comic books, zines, journals, books on tape, and other literary ephemera. The library provides monthly free gatherings that come with workshops, film screenings, book discussions, literary games, author features, and radical conversations. The library provides an inclusive and loving space for reading, writing, resting, learning, creating, and connecting. It's a community hub, a love letter, and resource. Excuse me. So if you have the time or the funds or the resources, please donate to them. I think you can also volunteer with them if you're based in the US. If you are not based in Brooklyn or New York, you can obviously support them by going on the GoFundMe and also looking online. I remember when I first met her, I think this was in 2019 or 2018. I can't remember when it was. She mentioned that they were working on an archival project or like a way of seeing which books were available when, because the way that it actually works is that if I have a book by a Black woman, I can donate it or trade it for another book, or I can just drop the books there for someone else to pick up, and it's 100% free. That's the most beautiful thing about it. Talk about service. Yeah, I'm very, very much inspired by this project, and if I would scream from mountaintops about it. And this is my little way. This is my little mountaintop that I can scream from. Yeah, next up is going to be the music or the mixtape of the week. Alright, so the book community spotlight for today is somebody who I have known for quite some time, that I met in Cape Town, Smangele Matebula, who's also known as Maribukeng. I love that name and that Instagram name, Maribukeng. Such an amazing, smart, witty Instagram name and nickname. She is somebody who, when I initially met her, I was just like amazed at her aura. It felt soft, it felt warm, it felt welcoming, and I just felt like non-judgment just radiating from her. And I think there's very few people that I encounter that my initial feeling with them is that. And I think I would say my biggest regret is that I didn't get to spend more time with Smangele. But thank goodness to online spaces that I can actually spend time with her without being in a physical space with her. And the project that I'd like to highlight that she has been working on for a while now is a podcast called I Love Books with Maribukeng, and you can get it on Spotify, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, all kinds of places. But apart from the podcast, which focuses specifically on asking one simple question around books, it's like a bite-sized conversation. I can actually read to you how she describes it herself. The podcast is a series of bite-sized conversations with book lovers on why they love books. Maribukeng Smangele Matebula chats to an array of special guests to explore their relationship with books and reading and how they came to how they came to it. I would say that she eats, breathes, lives books, and I would highly recommend checking out all of her Instagram pages. She has one called Deep Holding. She has another one called Maribukeng, which is her own personal one. And then she also has one called I Love Books with Maribukeng. And all of the Instagram pages are just so beautifully curated. You can see there's a lot of thoughtfulness that goes into it. And I just really appreciate the visuals, but also that those visuals are paired with someone who has dedicated a lot of time, a lot of her life towards books, but specifically African storytelling, and just the importance of the existence of African storytelling and books in the world. And I feel like you're in for a treat once you look into any and all of her Instagram pages. Let me know what you think, and I hope you feel invited to connect with her beyond just knowing that she exists and listening to her podcast. Yeah. Okay, the book community spotlight for today is Cite Black Women Collective. So Cite Black Women Collective, I'm going to read to you the story of how it started instead of just telling you. So in November 2017, Kristen A. Smith created Cite Black Women as a campaign to push people to engage in a radical praxis of citation that acknowledges and honors Black women's transnational intellectual production. It started out with t-shirts with the simple phrase, Cite Black Women. The idea was to motivate everyone, but particularly academics, to critically reflect on their everyday practices of citation and start to consciously question how they can incorporate Black women into the core of their work. From there, the movement grew, expanding to Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and establishing the hashtags Cite Black Women and Cite Black Women Sunday. Now we are growing into even more, including a new podcast, blog, and this website. As Black women, we are often overlooked, sidelined, and undervalued. Although we are intellectually prolific, we are rarely the ones that make up the canon. Recognizing this, Cite Black Women engages with social media, aesthetic representation, i.e. our t-shirts, and public dialogue to push people to critically rethink the politics of race, gender, and knowledge production. I mean, I feel like they've just said it all. I think this speaks to the importance of citing Black women, recognizing the work that Black women do. I think that in my experience in academia, I've constantly felt dissatisfied by how many Black women we read, or even people of color in general. I always felt like we had to fight to have certain books in the syllabus or included in the curriculum. And so this is a lovely way to say, okay, academia, do your thing, that's fine, but we're going to give you as in everybody a space that you can come to where you can be more intentional about Black literature, Black knowledge production, specifically by Black women, and giving credit where it's due. Giving credit where it's due. I think the work that they do is incredible. Definitely listen to the podcast. Definitely visit their website. They have a lot of things that they do. And that's the book community spotlight for today. Okay, the book community spotlight for this week is Brittle Paper. Brittle Paper is an online literary magazine for readers of African literature. They are Africa's premier online literary brand, inspiring readers to explore and celebrate African literary experiences in all its diversity. Their mission is to cultivate a fun and informative platform for readers who love literature from Africa. We inspire, entertain, and empower readers through an optimistic, diverse, and immersive experience of literature. Under their What We Do section, it reads, we feature news about books and daily happenings in the African literary scene. We publish fiction, poetry, book reviews, and essays. We bring African literature to captive audiences in digital spaces. We publicly document the contemporary African literary scene. Another interesting thing about Brittle Paper is that it is founded by Ainehi Edoro, who is also the editor-in-chief. She has been included in a lot of prestigious lists. For instance, in 2016, Ainehi was included in New African Magazine's list of 100 most influential Africans. She was also in Nigeria's Guardian as one of the 5 most influential Nigerian women of 2016. And in 2018, she was included in OK Africa's 100 women list. So I highly recommend following Brittle Paper, subscribing to them, receiving news in your inbox all around African literature, but also they present a lot of opportunities if you want to submit something, any literary prizes that are up for grabs that you might be interested in submitting to. And yeah, I just feel like it's a great way of keeping your finger on the pulse of African literature and what's happening in that area. So I love receiving this, and sometimes I just go on the website to browse what's going on. Yeah, so please subscribe to them if you're interested in African literature and that kind of space. I'm so excited to share with you the book community spotlight of today. It's been weeks that I've been holding on to this, and now I finally get to share. The book community spotlight for today goes to Linda Kaoma, who is also the person behind Linda Reads, which is a YouTube channel on YouTube, of course. She describes herself as a writer, a poet, a facilitator, a dancer, a scholar, and a lover of fashion and books. And I think if you visit her Instagram, which is a place that I often go to for Black woman joy and just like living your best life, I would say that her Instagram definitely reflects this. And I would also encourage you to go over to her Instagram and just have a look around and see what I'm talking about. You will leave feeling good and being reminded to enjoy life, and treat yourself well. Her YouTube channel, I'll just describe it quickly. I'll read her description. This channel was born because of my love for books, reading, and YouTube. Since I spend an embarrassing amount of time in these YouTube streets, I thought I might as well start my own channel. I'm sure my friends are relieved that I have this channel, so I can stop hoarding conversations going on and on about my current reads. This channel will hopefully be a constant affirmation and reminder that my voice is valid and my opinion matters. I hope to create a community of book lovers who are eager to have casual but critical conversations about books. I believe you don't need a specific set of skills or an arsenal of jargon approved by the literary community to talk about books. The only prerequisite, if any, is a deep passion for books. I mean, how can you not just like adore someone like that? And when you go to her channel on YouTube, you'll totally get that feeling. She makes books very accessible. She breaks it down, and she also talks in a tone and a pace that makes you want to sit and listen. I think there's very few people that I feel like that about. Like I said, I listen to things on 2 times the speed all the time, but Linda's one of those few people that I actually want to sit down with a meal, maybe a drink, and just listen to her speak fully at the normal speed. The other thing that I wanted to say is that I've known Linda for a very long time, and she's worked on a lot of incredible projects in the past, and I would say that she's really been a contributor to the literary scene in South Africa specifically, but I know globally as well, since she studied internationally. And I, as someone who is her contemporary and a friend, admire so much her contributions and just watching her grow. And I know that she's trying to get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, so if you can help me and help her and yourself actually by going over to her Instagram and to her, specifically her YouTube, and subscribing to her channel, you won't regret it. She also did this beautiful, interesting, amazing, witty challenge where she wore different clothes to describe different book covers, and I wanted to share it here, but I actually thought, you know what, I'm gonna share it in the link below so that you can go to her Instagram page, and then while you're there watching, just follow her as well while you're at it. It's so well done, it's so beautiful, it's so witty, it's so smart. I adore her sense of style. Anyway, at this point we're gushing, which is fine, I guess, but I really respect Linda and her contributions and the way that she carries herself in the world. I will also never ever forget her, because she is the person who is responsible for me meeting a lot of really incredible poets and really ushered me into the world of poetry. And we worked together on a project in 2015, quite a while ago, and I got the chance to meet a legend, one of the legends in the poetry scene, in the literary arts scene in South Africa. He has since passed on, but I got to meet Professor Korapetsi Willie Khositsili, which is just such a privilege, a big privilege, and I'll forever be grateful to her for that opportunity. And with that, I will wrap up and say, please go follow Linda on her Instagram as well as her YouTube, and just go and enjoy her content. I think it is just so beautifully curated, and you will do so knowing that this is somebody who's contributed greatly to the literary scene. Yeah. The book community spotlight for today is Afrida, Afreada, and it is an African literary magazine. And I'll just read to you their about page. Imagine traveling across Africa in a day. No visa applications, no airports, just awe-inspiring stories. We are bringing words and worlds together. Cape Town to Cairo, Lagos to Lusaka. Welcome to Afrida. Welcome home. Afrida is a literary magazine featuring original short stories from established and emerging writers across Africa and its diaspora. A fusion of the two words Africa and reader. We live for the well-crafted narratives and effortless reads that speak to our daily realities as Africans at home and abroad. Since launching in December 2015, our sole aim has been to promote and preserve our creativity, community, and culture. From traditional wedding ceremonies in Uganda to crazy bus journeys in Madagascar, we believe in the transformative power of great storytelling and its ability to reflect and shape the world around us. We share new stories every week. You can meet the team behind the stories, keep up with the fun of Instagram and Twitter, and sign up below to join our mailing list. They do receive submissions, and I'll actually just quickly read to you. Of course, you can go on their website and read it yourself, but since we're here, I'm just going to read to you what kind of material they receive. So on their submissions page, they say, we need new stories from the sandy shores of Senegal to the dimly lit back streets of Mozambique. If you write short fiction, we want to hear from you. What exactly are we looking for? Well, it varies. No two stories are the same, but in each case, we'll be looking for originality and creativity. We love a strong plot. We love getting to know characters, and we love getting to know you. So please remember to include a short bio. We shape our publication around the stories you want to tell, so there's no need to write towards a particular theme. But we would encourage you to spend some time reading some of our stories to familiarize yourself with what we've published so far. This is an English publication, but feel free to include languages from home. We believe in the power of Google, so we won't be including glossaries. What they publish fictional stories that are no longer than 5,000 words. They commission narrative, nonfiction, and photography for specific projects on a case-by-case basis. And I'm just going to read to you the periods of time that they receive submissions. So they are open for fiction submissions from the 1st of January until the 28th of February 2021. 1st of May until 30th of June 2021, 1st September until 31st October 2021. So they're currently receiving submissions right now, and I can only imagine that next year it will be very similar time period. Yeah, just they do pay for they do compensate for each submission, £25 for any submission that's accepted, and you can read the fine print on their website. Very exciting literary magazine that is, I think, on the beat, and also, I mean, if you're not going there to submit a story, you can also go there to read the short stories that they've published. Right. The other thing that I wanted to share is a podcast that was actually an interview between Noni and Nagani. Usually I would do a book community spotlight and a mixtape of the week, but because this is a special episode, I'm just going to share bits and bobs that I've come across that are kind of related to what I'm talking about in this episode. And so this interview that Noni did with Nagani, or Nozuko did with Nagani, is such a, you know what it felt like? It felt like listening to two people get to know each other in a very organic way. Nagani was quite candid in this interview. Not that Nagani isn't in other interviews, but I found it very interesting, the stories about being excommunicated from religious communities and just the struggle of being a musician. Let me not say struggle, the process of bringing your music and your art into the world, and all the internal turmoil and courage it takes to bring that out into the world. And so it's a short listen, it's like 22 minutes, but I think it's definitely enlightening. And Nagani's book Piggy Boy Blues is definitely a book that I will be reviewing or talking about on this channel. So I think it's a nice precursor for at a later date when I eventually do have that conversation. But yeah, I'll put the link in the bio so you can, link in the description so you can listen to that when you have some time. Okay, now we are on to the book community spotlight. For this week, the book community spotlight is a podcast that is run by someone I admire a lot, Jennifer Baker, or Jen Baker, based in New York City. And I'll read the blurb. Minorities in Publishing is the brainchild of publishing professional Jen Baker. Minorities in Publishing, MIP, is a podcast discussing diversity or lack thereof in the book publishing industry with other professionals working in-house as well as authors and those in the literary scene. MIP is an interview format podcast where Jennifer discusses the lack of diversity in the book publishing industry with other underrepresented professionals working in or associated with the literary scene. Featured guests include vice presidents and executive editors, literary agents, marketers, authors, illustrators, and more. The podcast began in August 2014 and posts new episodes every month. I think it's actually bi-monthly now, with a new guest. In addition to talking about the greater systemic issues of marginalized representation in media, we also discuss guests' personal experiences in their respective field, as well as provide information of what to expect as an emerging writer or professional in this business. You can find podcast episodes on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, and I'm sure more as well, right? And yeah, I met Jen years ago now, probably 4 or 3 years ago. She was a speaker on a panel that one of my lecturers had organized, and I remember just being so in awe at how vibrant, authentic, honest, but also oddly approachable she was. And after seeing her speak a second time, I was like, okay, I'm going to this panel again and I'm going to speak to her. So I think I wrote her an email, and then I walked up to her at the panel trembling, and I was like, hi, I'm Didi. I wrote to you. I was so nervous to speak to you the first time. And she was like, why would you be nervous? I'm so glad you came to say hi. And she was just like so open. She's like, I'm glad you emailed me. And yeah, just reach out to me if you ever need anything or if you want to talk about specific things. And I was just like, oh my gosh, yes, thank you. Gushing, and tripping over myself. But it just was so refreshing to be in a literary space and talking to someone who also studied at the New School, who is deeply embedded in the literary scene in New York City and who is doing incredible work. There's actually one of the books that she published, that she edited. I'll put a picture here because I can't find the book now. I've got a whole lot of books over here that I took from up there, and I'm going to put them on my bookshelf. But in any case, all of that to say that Jennifer is incredible and her podcast is enlightening. And I think the thing to me that is the most powerful thing about the podcast is that she doesn't only speak to authors, she also speaks to editors, marketers. So you really get to speak to people who are in the business, in the creative writing, in the literary business. And there's something very important about that, because yes, while it is wonderful to hear from authors, it's also great to hear from somebody who illustrated a book cover or somebody who edited books, to hear like what is it that they're looking for in like an editor author relationship. What kinds of books are they looking for? What kind of tips can they give? And also just people who do the marketing side of things, like how's that process, how does that go, how can you prepare yourself to be attractive to a publishing house, for instance. So yeah, fascinating, interesting, and she's also just a wonderful personality. Please give it a listen if you have a chance. I'll put her Twitter, her details down there, and also obviously links to the podcast. Okay, the book community spotlight for today is a platform that has been started by a woman from Liberia named Bilfena Yawon. And the Instagram account that she started is called The Womanist Reader. The Womanist Reader is the name of the Instagram account that is named after Layla Phillips' anthology that she put together in 2006. I'll put in the description the name of that anthology and a description of what that anthology does, because I think that it would be a great book to have on your bookshelf. I have it on my own wish list and my TBR list. But yeah, just so you can make the correlation of where she got the name from. And she started basically during 2020, when one of the black activists one of the Black Lives Matter activists, 19-year-old Oluwatoyin Salau, was murdered. She was basically in despair, and that was the thing that kind of took her on a windy road to get to the place of starting this platform, where she basically looked at her bookshelf and she found some readings by the Combahee Women's Collective, and she used that as like a way to remember that actually reading books by other people, other Black women, is such an important way to bring yourself to yourself and to remind yourself that you are not alone, and that there's been people who've survived this before you came along who had it worse off. And so she kind of compiles PDFs that are written that have Black feminist thought at the core. Sorry, the Combahee River Collective. I always want to say the Combahee Women Collective, but that's not it. And she also has started a website. The website is called Bilfena's Library, and I'm just going to read the About Me page. In this here place, we flesh. Toni Morrison lives here. Paul Marshall lives here. Buchi Emecheta lives here. Audre Lorde lives here. Octavia Butler lives here. Miriam Tlali lives here. Sonia Sanchez lives here. June Jordan lives here. I could go on and on. This is an ode to all the Black women writers who have gotten me through, who have provided me language. Because of them, we all have a manual and a guide. Because of them, we never have to experience painful firsts alone. There is safety in their words. There is a home in their words. This online library is a celebration of Black English and Black language. I see it as a tool in political education as well as a place for communal learning. This is my gift to the folks. Bilfena. And there's a lot of things on this website. She has a library section where she has books and short stories, essays, speeches, and interviews. She also has a section where she talks about different topics, and there's 4 main categories: abolition, Black feminism and womanism, Black maternity, and Black ecology. And then she also has a section where she talks about events, how you can donate, and contact her. And I'll put the link to this website. It's called bilfenaslibrary.com. And also the Instagram accounts that are attached to this account. Okay, you can probably tell from the vibe that I have today, specifically this robe. This is my rich auntie robe. Whenever I wear this, I am channeling and drawing towards me the rich auntie, okay, that is part of my future. I'm telling you, whenever I wear this robe, and even when I bought it, I was like, you know what, when I'm in that rich auntie energy, this is the robe that I wear. And so in true alignment with that, I found a podcast / book club called the Rich Aunties Club. And I actually discovered it on Instagram and then went on to find their website. So the Rich Aunties Club began amidst a key about the reality that we are the rich aunties we have always aspired to be. You know, that aunt that pulls up to the family function fresh off her latest vacation, wearing a fur coat and designer boots, handing out money like it's candy. This is a podcast for those that enjoy luxury and self-care in the form of a glass of wine with a good book. This is space for our people who appreciate making the most out of life. Opulence is a mindset. Oh, and I'm going to share some snapshots of the website. When I actually went on the website for the first time, I literally remarked, I was like, yo, like, yes, I feel that rich auntie energy. And it's run by 3 people: Bria Brown, who's an artist and an entrepreneur; Essence Rogers, who's 27, a horror film buff and a self-care enthusiast; Heaven Jones, who's a multimedia producer and holistic wellness advocate. And how they do this is that they have so far 3 episodes where they focus on different topics. So the first episode they had was titled You're Absolutely Worth It, where they looked at Valera Wilson's debut self-help book, and they also pair it with wine. So every episode that they have a podcast on, they have a book and a wine that they pair it with, and there's also links on their website where you can actually buy the book or the wine. So the second book that they did was The Vanishing Half, and they have paired a wine with that. And then they also did, give me one second, The American Marriage by Tayari Jones. So absolutely luxurious and beautiful. And I think one thing that I really enjoy about this is that it's a podcast, it's a book recommendation. It's a book club. It's listening to 3 women speaking. It's also all about self-care and appreciating yourself and affirming yourself. It's also a podcast. It's also a book club. It's just so many things wrapped up in one. And I really, really just love the aesthetic. And I also love the idea of separating this idea, and I don't think I don't think it's still a predominant idea, but that if you read, you're a nerd, and that you're not well traveled or can't be luxurious. And to me, buying books is also a form of taking care of myself and exercising self-care and luxury, to be frank. Like, I get so much joy looking at my bookshelf. Anyway, the Rich Aunties Club, I'll leave all their details at the bottom.